Am I the asshole for letting my child cuss at an old woman? My husband is staying with his mother. Both are in isolation. Thank goodness my kids and I are. I had to do an emergency grocery run because the delivery in my area was backed up. I took my kiddos, 5, 8, 12 with me. 8 is on the spectrum and has trouble in places like grocery stores. I gave him an iPad with cellular and over-the-ear headphones. He should be good to go. He doesn't like loud noises or strangers touching him. While in line, 12 is a lot of help with his brothers, so he's trying to help me with 5 throwing junk food in the cart. I decided to go to the cashier's checkout, and then the line was long. 8 is good. Just chilling watching his cartoons with his headphones. Until this old lady behind us is upset over something. I'm ignoring her, but 12 grabs me and says I think we have an issue. The lady starts going on about kids today and technology. She is trying to get 8 attention. I don't want to startle him, so 12 moves between them. But 5 is looking at more cookies. The old woman told me my kids were rude, ignoring her. She taps on my 8-year-old, and I pull him aside. He looks up from his iPad and takes his headphones off to see if something is wrong. I'm trying to get his headphones back on, and the old woman says these types of things are for at home only, and I need to teach my kids to interact in public. She tells 8 he's old enough to know better than to act like this, scolding him. Loudly, publicly, and in the middle of the store. 8 starts to cry, the first sign of a meltdown with him. 12 turns to the old woman and says, "You stupid bitch, he's autistic." While I usually would tell 12 off because I have more issues to deal with. The old lady wants to talk to security and starts making a scene about my kids screaming they called her a bitch. I finally leave a full cart of food there and leave. Security tried to stop me, saying I had to get 8 to the car. He has autism, and he's going to have a major meltdown. 12 talks to security and tells him about the old lady in line. Not the asshole. The end of this story better be, and then I took 12 for ice cream. Edit. And explained to him not to call old ladies names, no matter how much they deserve it. Not the asshole. She was a pushy, nosy broad who never learned to mind her own business. Getting told off by a 12-year-old was the least she deserved. Have a talk with 12 about his language if you feel so inclined, but otherwise he's fine. Not the asshole. Wow, your 12-year-old is a superstar brother. You should name and shame this store emo, they deserve the public censure. Edit. She touched the sun, that's crossing a line into assault and battery. Sometimes with Dumba like this, the only way they learn is going nuclear. Not the asshole. As a fellow autistic mother of a boy, you handled this way better than I would have. How dare this woman one? Touch your child, during a pandemic, too. Lecture you on what your children are doing and how your children should be acting. People need to mind their business and keep their hands to themselves. She was 100% wrong. I'd say the fact that 8 has autism is irrelevant to this story in the sense that the old lady had no business being in your or your kid's business, full stop. She didn't need to know why 8 had headphones, it's none of her fing business. So not the asshole so many times and yay to 12. An excellent and appropriate use of language is what I would call that. I hope you managed to get some groceries in the end and some calm time at home and together. Not the asshole. Laughing my ass off. I like 12. Not the asshole. 12 sounds like a great sibling heart. Not the asshole. This situation is a perfect example of how entitled and toxic boomers can be. The lady had no right starting drama over something that did not include her at all. As for your 12-year-old, I believe him swearing was only a product of his anger upon witnessing how harshly this old lady was treating his autistic brother, and he expressed it. He only wanted to defend his brother. Am I the asshole for telling my wife she embarrassed everyone during son's birthday dinner? For starters, I just want to say we do have money and don't have a need to save money. My wife, 42F, currently works as a part-time nurse. I, 42M, work in the local police department as a detective. We have 2 kids, son, 12M, and daughter, 13F. My wife has started wanting to save money and it's starting to annoy the kids. An example, we were giving the kids $10 each week for allowance, but my wife decided that $10 was too much and lowered it to $3. I have told her that I think the allowance amount is too low, but she disagrees. Another example is that she will buy meals to bring to the restaurant to be microwaved. We have gotten looks before and it's always turned down. It results in her making a fuss and will be asked to leave. I have told her that she needs to stop and that when we go out, I am fine with her ordering whatever she wants. I normally pay for the groceries, the bills, and food that we eat out. My wife helps with small payments and will buy our kids cheap clothing. My daughter does have like to wear designer clothing and I normally will buy the clothes and then hear about it from my wife. My son was turning 12 and he wanted to eat out at his favorite steakhouse. I did ask that my wife not bring any of her meals along to the restaurant. We arrived at the restaurant and sat down at the table. My wife gets up to use the bathroom and we order our drinks. When the drinks arrive, we give the waiter what we want to eat and my wife orders a small salad. The waiter comes back over with a meal and says, "Ma'am, we can't warm this up for you." I see my son and daughter both look embarrassed, and I apologize to the waiter. My wife spends the rest of the dinner staying silent and wouldn't touch the salad she ordered. When the evening was over and we got home, my wife and I began to argue about the evening. I told her that she was in the wrong for bringing a meal when I asked her not to. She started to argue back that eating out is a waste. I then said, "Well, you embarrassed everyone, including our kids." She asked me to leave the bedroom and I am now staying in the guest bedroom. Am I the asshole for telling my wife she embarrassed everyone during son's birthday dinner? Not the asshole. But she sounds mentally unwell, frankly. Has she had a physical exam lately? This behavior is not normal. Not the asshole. Your wife is unwell. There's something on her mind, something bothering her deeply, and it's causing her to nickel and dime everything that she comes across. She needs to talk to someone professionally to get to the bottom of it. Not the asshole. You're a detective. Investigate your finances and why she has recently become so weird about money. It's not normal to take her own food to restaurants. Not the asshole, but your wife is acting odd. Is it possible she's hiding a major debt from you? Any chance she would be laid off soon? You should ask her just how much she wants to save. And if you haven't by now, check all of your financial accounts to make sure she didn't drain them and all of this odd behavior isn't an attempt to replace it before you notice. Not the asshole. It's a health violation in most jurisdictions to bring outside food into a restaurant. Do you have control over all the finances? Does your wife know you don't have any money problems? It sounds like there's a bigger issue going on here with your wife. Not the asshole, but she's either suffering some sort of mental health crisis or hiding something financially relevant from you. You need to get to the bottom of it. Not the asshole. Your wife's behavior in restaurants is utterly ridiculous. If she feels that eating out is a waste, then she should just stay home. Also, $3 a week isn't enough of an allowance for an 8-year-old. She's being unreasonable. Do you have any idea what brought on this sudden extreme frugality in your wife? I don't know who handles the bills, but it might be worth checking your bank accounts to make sure everything is as it should be. Then maybe your wife should seek therapy. Not the asshole. You don't bring your own food to a restaurant. Everyone knows that. It seems like your wife is having some sort of mental health issue. Am I the asshole for wanting to move out and telling my mom it's not my job to raise my siblings? 20-year-old girl here. I'm the oldest of 5 by 11 years. My younger siblings are 9M, 5F, 3F, and 10-month M. I do the lion's share of childrearing for my little siblings and oftentimes feel more like a single mother than our mom. As well as taking care of them, I also cook, clean and do basically anything that needs doing. Our mom, I love her, but she isn't great. I'm planning to move in with a friend as we're going to get a small flat together. On one hand I want this so badly, on the other I feel worried sick about my little brothers and sisters and how they will fare without me. My mom, when she found out about my plan, also told me I can't move out as she needs me and she won't be able to cope alone, and how I'm being selfish and I have responsibilities that are more important. I admit I lost it at that, as I've been the only one to ever put my responsibilities first, and I told her it's not my job to raise her kids. She now thinks I'm entitled and spoiled and has even told my little siblings how I'm going to be leaving them all behind as I'm too interested in myself. That was a bombshell she dropped before flaunting off to go party, and I spent the entire night trying to console them. I feel honestly like shit at this, and maybe I am being selfish and putting my desires for the freedom my friends have first. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your mother will keep using you as a nanny as long as you let her. Get out. My guess is that your mother will magically be able to cope once she has no choice. Not the asshole. The term parentification is the correct one for your situation. It isn't your job to raise those kids. Might get downvoted for this next bit though. Your mother should have used lots of birth control, or kept her legs closed, if she didn't want to raise that many children. Seriously. Not the asshole. What are you supposed to do? Never move out of the house? Your youngest sibling is 3. Are you supposed to remain at home caring for your siblings well into your 30s? You deserve your own life, and these are not your children. You are entitled to have your own life. If she needs help with childcare, she needs to source it elsewhere. I'm sure you love your siblings and still want to have an active role in their lives, but this is not your responsibility. If you want to have kids yourself, this time now in your 20s is the very short time you will have complete freedom. Take advantage of that. You're not being selfish. Your mom is being selfish to try to take that from you. Edit op corrected me that I misread and the youngest is 10 mos. Not the asshole, your mom needs to take responsibility. And where is dad? Not the asshole. Have you ever heard of parentification? Not the asshole. You did not choose to have a bunch of kids you could not raise. If you do make that choice one day, then you will be on the hook for it. Go live your life. Not the asshole. Your mom is taking you for granted and is trying to use the kids as pawns to guilt you into staying so she doesn't lose her live-in nanny. She has a 10-month-old. And she's going to party. That is crazy. Am I the asshole for telling my wife that it was embarrassing that the house was a mess when I had guests over? Relevant context. I, 36, am the breadwinner, my wife is a som. We have 3 kids, so the house is a little too messy oftentimes. My wife does her best to keep up with the cleaning and keeping the house tidy, and I feel for her. I really do. So I told her she doesn't have to clean up all the time since the kids are running up and down all day and making huge messes. I did tell her that she only has to make sure the house is clean when we have guests over, and she agreed with me. Well, the other day I brought over some friends from work, and when I opened the door all I could see was an utter mess, food and toys and clutter everywhere. I was shocked, I was embarrassed and just mortified that my friends saw my home looking like this. Also, I have a couple of guys who came over for the first time, so the first impression must have been horrible to them. I took the guests into the least messy part of the house and my friends kept giving me weird looks and making indirect comments about the state of home. I was livid. I waited till they left, then went into the bedroom to see that my wife was actually sleeping. I woke her up to ask why she didn't tidy up the house knowing I was going to bring friends over. She said she didn't know, but I sent her a text letting her know and she said she didn't see it. I told her it seemed like she did see the text but decided to ignore it. She said no, but she wasn't feeling well and had a headache, so she thought of getting an hour-long nap. I told her that it was so embarrassing that the house looked like this when my friends came over and that this was avoidable had she cleaned up and prepared the house for the guests. She argued that first of all, the kids are the ones causing this mess, and second of all, it was my fault for not checking twice with her and making sure the house was ready for guests. I thought that was ridiculous because she was basically blaming me for her own actions, or lack of, which I didn't appreciate so much. I told her it was embarrassing, and yes, she gets part of the blame for the house looking like a complete mess and being out of control like that. She called me a jerk, then walked out of the room and avoided speaking to me about it, insisting that I'm the one at fault in this situation. Am I? Edit. I feel like more relevant context is needed here, so 1. The reason I only texted was because this is our usual way of communication, so it seemed unusual that she didn't check her phone for any texts. 2. My kids are under 10 and my oldest is basically glued to her tablet and does nothing to help out. 3. My wife and I rarely argue about the guests coming over since we would at least have the living room ready any time someone shows up. You are the asshole. You basically sprung this upon her. Didn't check to see if she happened to see the 1 text where you just casually decided to spontaneously bring home people that day, and showed literally zero care that she wasn't feeling well. SOM stands for stay-at-home mom, not stay-at-home maid. Her priority is the children. Not to be on call to make the house look unrealistically tidy in an hour's time. And #X200B. Edit. 1 hour, 3 hours, both are unreasonable exactly because of why I stated. And #X200B. ETA. Thank you for the awards. You are the asshole. So let me get this straight. You work, presumably, normal business hours, or close to it, and you expect your wife to be on 24/7 as a SOM as well as a house cleaner? I'll also say, if your friends really were judging you that harshly for the state of your house, given you have 3 kids, then your friends are Oz too. ETA. I wonder if the weird looks from the friends were because they were picking up on Op's hostility towards his wife. Info. Do you live in this house? If yes, why the fuck aren't you also cleaning it? Edit. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. It seemed like she did see the text and decided to ignore it? Based on what? You are the asshole. I agree with everything your wife said. You should have guaranteed she knew that you were inviting people over. So you think her job is to clean up after your kids? Is she not allowed to get sick? You are the asshole. You are the asshole. While I am currently working full-time, I spent 14 years as a som. My husband, breadwinner, has always helped with the housework. Always. And when we have company, we have a conversation in advance, not a day of text. And we prepare for it together. You expected a text, which she didn't see, to be sufficient. You should have had an actual conversation with your wife. Then you'd have known she wasn't feeling well and you would have known not to invite guests. It honestly sounds like you don't have a lot of respect for your wife. And even if you are the breadwinner and she stays home, marriage is a partnership where you should be willing to help her. Having company requires planning. You are the asshole. Seriously, dude? If you want her to clean up for guests, you give her at least 24 hours notice the guests are coming. Better yet, you spend the evening before helping her tidy. You don't just assume she's up for last-minute company, let alone that she's got the time and bandwidth to prepare for them. And you certainly don't continue to whine about how embarrassed you are over the entirely foreseeable consequence of your own failure to plan ahead when she tells you she's not feeling well. Why didn't you clean the house? It's your house too. Yes, she's a stay-at-home mom, but she's busy with the kids.